Action. Hi guys, James from Fitness Factory here talking about the 9 pillars of success. Today we're going to be talking about flexibility, or at least the first component of flexibility, or the first part. So we have dynamic flexibility or dynamic stretching, and then we have static stretching or lengthening that muscle, which we're not going to go into yet. We'll talk about that at another stage. But today we're going to talk about dynamic stretching. So this is actually the second part of our warm-up where we do our mobility and then we move into our dynamic stretching. So we're going to have Carell that demonstrates today. Hello. So what we're going to start with is those leg kicks that we know. So we're going to kick the opposite foot up to the opposite hand. This is really good for creating lots of balance, proprioceptive feedback through the muscles. So all of those little joints have sensors in them that send messages to your brain and tell you where you are in space. And it also strengthens all of those little muscles in those joints, which is super important. We want to make sure that that foot is locked back, so the leg is nice and straight, and we lock that posterior chain into the stretch. And you should feel that stretch through the lower back and all the way down to the heel. That's awesome, Carell. Good job. Next one we're going to do is we're going to go knee to the chest. So pulling that knee up towards the chest, big stretch, and then down to the other side. We're only holding for a couple of seconds. We don't want to move into a static stretch because then that's encouraging the muscle to lengthen. It's encouraging the muscle to relax. And then if we want to exercise after that, that's where we get some potentially dangerous injuries. So we want to avoid that altogether. So this is a nice big stretch for that posterior chain again. So lower back and glutes mainly through this stretch. That's great. Next one we're going to do is our quad stretch. So getting into those quads, a little bit of hip flexor through this one as well, and a little bit of the lower abdominal wall. Again, balancing a lot so that we're strengthening all of those little muscles around the ankles and the knees. So we're getting lots of strength in those little stabilizing muscles, which is super important. But mainly we're getting this nice big stretch down through the quads, which is a big group of muscles. That's awesome. Next one we're going to do is extend that stretch. So Carell's going to lunge into this one. Just hold for a couple of seconds and come here for a sec, friend. So what we're really targeting now is that hip flexor complex, which we know gets really tight when we sit for extended periods of time, which everybody does. That hip flexor complex also connects onto the lower back or onto the lumbar. And if that gets really tight, which again, we know that it does, that can cause a lot of immobility and a lot of back pain, which is predominantly how people get back pain, is because of these tight muscles. So we want to make sure we stretch them out. Now, if you want to extend this stretch, we're going to reach this hand up and over, which is going to stretch out those lats, serratus anterior, and really target down into those hip flexors, which is going to give you a deeper stretch if you want it. Onto the other side. Up and over. Good, just for a couple of seconds and back. Awesome, one more. Beautiful, that's great. Next one we're going to do is our scorpion touches. So lying down on the ground, hands are parallel to the shoulders as you can see. We're going to get the opposite foot up to the opposite hand. Just hold for a second, Carell. Again, stretching out that hip flexor, which is super important, but also what we're doing is strengthening that posterior chain. So lower back, glutes, hamstrings and calves, and getting a nice posture flex through there. Onto the other side, big stretch. That's great. Yeah, really nice. So up as high as you can, guys. Nice and slow. We're not collapsing into it. We want to really squeeze those glutes as we come over and stretch out that hip flexor. It's awesome, Carell. Good, last one. From there, we're going to get hands by our chest. We're going to push up, bum up into the air, and nice straight legs down through here. Again, stretching out that posterior chain. And then as we come down, we're walking those hands out, developing lots of strength through the chest and shoulders and through the core. So this is the last exercise in our dynamic stretches to really warm up that body and get it super prepared and ready to exercise. Now guys, if that's a little bit too tight for your hamstrings, we can spread the feet from this point, and that'll take pressure off of the hamstrings, and that'll allow you to go down a little bit lower. But ultimately we want to get to the point where those feet can come together. So you're building up to the point where those feet are together, so you get that nice deep stretch out into the push-up position, back up and standing up. That's awesome. Well done. So that's the last of our stretches. You need to be doing all of these stretches so that we can avoid injuries, we can warm up the body so that it's ready for exercise, and so that your body moves really well. These are great stretches, and if you're not doing them, implement them now. They're going to really help you out.